Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to our very first example of subnetting. So I'll walk you through the entire process. We'll look at a word problem here, identify the key components, diagram it out, and then we will actually start subnetting the entire, we'll map out all the different subnets, and we'll go through that together. Alright, so here's an example I have. Alright, so here we have a little paragraph saying, you have been hired by a company to help organize their computer network. When the company started out, it was a small mom and pop shop, but as the company grew, so did their computer network. Currently, the network is not subnetted at all. Everyone is on the same network and they share all the same resources. Its IP address is 172.16.0.0. And the corresponding subnet mask is 225.225.0.0. They have 5 servers, 50 computers, 5 printers, and several switches. They are experiencing major problems with traffic and it's often slow. Management is concerned about security since data leaks are in the news so often, and they are also open to purchasing more equipment if it will help them be safer and more efficient. After discussing the problems with the company owner, you have determined that it is best to divide out the network into 5 areas, one for each department: accounting, engineering, marketing, management, and sales. Please help redesign this network to be sure to map out the entire network for your client. So this is very typical of a problem that you would see on a standardized test for IT certifications. So I'll just go ahead, and what I'll do right now is highlight out the important parts that I know that we're going to need in the future as we're breaking down and mapping out the subnet. So a lot of this stuff is basically fluff, and these certification companies will oftentimes throw in a lot of extra information to confuse you. So what you want to do is make sure that you just run through it carefully and look at the important parts. All right, so you've been hired by a company to organize their network. When the company started out, it was a small mom and pop shop, so we really don't need anything there. The computer is not subnetted at all. That's important here. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight that. So basically everything is on one giant network and everyone can see everything. The IP address is 172.16.0. That's important, so I'm going to highlight that there. The corresponding subnet mask is 255. That's important. That's actually very important, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. They have 5. Whoops, sorry about that. They have 5 servers, 5 servers, 50 computers, 5 printers, several switches. It sounds like that's important, but actually it is not. We really don't need to know. For this specific problem, we really don't need to know all of this extra information. They're experiencing major problems with traffic and it's slow. I mean, that's important, but again, for this specific problem right now, all we were being asked to do is subnet out this network. Again, so it's not pertinent as of this moment. After discussing the problems with the company owner, you have determined that it's best to divide out their network into 5 areas, one for each department. So that's kind of important there. So we're going to divide it into 5 subnets. All right, and then accounting, engineering, marketing, management, sales, we really don't care about the names right now. And then be sure to map out the entire network. So I'm just going to highlight that because that's what we need to do, map out the entire network. All right, so this is a diagram that is accompanying the word problem. And starting from your right-hand side, we see that there's the internet. There's a router that's connecting up to the internet. And then we have a central switch connected up to the router. And spanning out from the central switch, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of computers, all connected via switches to the central switch. On the left-hand side here, we have a bank of servers connected again to the central switch via a switch. And we have a bank of printers here connected to the switch, to the central switch via a intermediary switch. All right, so although this diagram is really pretty and it's very nice, it doesn't tell us too much about how we are going to subnet. So for the time being, I'm just going to kind of ignore it. Although I'm sure it does have some important information later on, for our specific problem here today, right now, it doesn't tell us much information. So I'm just going to scroll down here, keep going, keep going. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our actual subnetting. Now, if you have my Undulus IT TCP/IP tip sheet, go ahead and pull that out because it will be really, really helpful as we're subnetting to have some of this information so that we don't have to do everything by hand. Now, if you don't have it, you can just go to the website and download it. But if you do have it, just pull it out. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So what's the first thing we need to know here? Well, if you look at the TCP/IP tip sheet, we need to know the network ID and we need to know the subnet mask. These are some of the most important things, and we had highlighted that earlier. So let's go ahead and just scroll back up here again. And we know that the IP address is 172.16.00 and the subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. So what I'm going to do here is, what is the first thing that we need to know? Well, we really do need to know those two critical pieces of information. All right, so IP address is 172.16.0.0. Sorry, it's a bit sloppy there, but I'm working off of a Surface. All right, and then the subnet mask is 255.0.0. All right, the next thing we need to know is what are the business needs. So reading through all the fluff and extra information that they throw on here, we know that our business needs, this person is looking for basically 5 subnets, one for each department. So this person wants to divide out their network according to the departments. He has 5 departments. So business needs are, so we need to translate that. And a big part of what you do as an IT consultant is translate their business needs into IT needs. So I'm going to write out 5 subnets. I can't spell. So let's go with 5 subnetworks. All right, now how many bits do we need to borrow? Well, let's look back at our TCP/IP cheat sheet. If I want to create 5 subnets, how many bits do I need to borrow? All right, now let me take a step back here. My IP address is 172.16.0.0. My subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. So basically it tells me that this first octet is completely full. I can't touch it, I can't use it. This second octet is completely full. I can't touch it, I can't use it. This third octet though, this is where I'm going to be doing all my work. That's where I'm going to slice and dice to create my new subnets. I'm going to cut up this third octet. So once I know that I'm going to be cutting up the third octet, I need to understand which part of that octet is going to be network and which part of that octet is going to be used for host. So how many bits do we need to borrow? And let's look back at our TCP/IP cheat sheet here. If I borrow 1 bit, or if I borrow 0 bits, I won't be able to create any networks. If I borrow 1 bit, I can create 2 networks. If I borrow 2 bits, I can create 4 networks. Does that meet my needs? No, I don't need to create 4 networks, I need to create 5 networks. So if I borrow 3 bits, that will give me 8 different networks that I can create. If I borrow 3 bits, right here, if I borrow 3 bits, I can create 8 networks. Now that's a little bit more than what I need, and that's okay. When I present that to the clients, I present that as room for growth. Because look, if I borrow only 2 bits, I can only create 4 networks, and I will not be able to meet the needs of my clients. So it's better to be safe than to be sorry. So we take a little bit more because that's what the math allows, and we can only do what the math allows. You can't take half a bit. You can't take a quarter of a bit. You either take a bit or you don't take a bit. So because I'm going to take 3 bits, that will give me 8 networks. Oh, not there. Over here. So how many bits do I need to borrow? I need to borrow, let's go back to that. Erase that. All right, how many bits do I need to borrow? I need to borrow 3 bits. All right, what number does that translate to? Or sorry, 3 bits, which gives us 8 networks. All right, so if I'm borrowing 3 bits, what subnet mask number does that come out to? So if I have 1 bit here, now I'm using my subnet mask bit patterns table, which is the second table on my TCP/IP cheat sheet. So that's 1, that's 2 bits here, this is 3 bits. This column right here, I'm borrowing 3 bits. The rest of these are going to stay as zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That comes out to 224. So 3 bits translates into 224. All right, I promise I'm going to get a better pen next time. All right, so what is my new subnet mask? So I have the first subnet mask octet is 255. And then my second subnet mask octet over here is 255. So I'm going to bring that down again, 255. Now the third octet, remember this third octet was the one that we were messing around with? Let me just go ahead and highlight this other side here. This third octet is the one that we are going to be messing with. Alright, so the third octet is now going to be 2, 2, 4. And then the last octet we're not messing with, so we just leave that as 0. So my new subnet mask is 225.225.224. Sorry, let me read that again. My new subnet mask is 255.255.224. Alright, so after I fill out my needs here, I can fill out my new subnet mask. It's going to be 255.255.224.0. All right. Now, how many new subnets do we get? I actually filled that up a little bit earlier, but let's write it in. 8 networks. Actually, it would be more accurate if I wrote 8 subnets. I'll write this out. I'll erase that too. Stupid pen! I hate this thing. Alright, so now the next question is, how many hosts in each subnet? So we have 8 new subnets. How many computers can I put in each subnet? Now, there's a formula for trying to figure this out, and I'm going to put this formula in red here. 2 to the power of n. N meaning how many bits you have. Now, pay very close attention here. I'm not asking for the number of subnets. So don't do something like 2 to the power of 3 because we borrowed 3 bits. 2 to the power of 3 equals 8, and you do not have 8 hosts in each subnet. Pay very close attention to what the questions are. We are asking about the number of hosts. So this is completely wrong. What you actually want to do is count up how many bits are left over in the host part of your network. Now, if you look up at the subnet mask, this tells you what part is reserved for the network. So the first octet is all used up for the network. The second octet is all used up for the network. And remember this part that we highlighted yellow? 3 bits from here are part of the network. That means the remaining, and I'm going to use green for this color here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The remaining parts are used for the host, and then this last octet here, this is all used for the host. So if we scroll to the right a little bit, this last octet, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bits that are still left for the host. And actually, to differentiate this better, I should actually use zeros, because the ones signify that something has been used up or that's being taken for the network part. So I'm going to erase this now, and I'm going to show you what this entire thing would look like in actual bits. So I'm going to do this in green. So the third octet here, I'll put the network part in black. 1, 2, 3. We borrowed 3 bits from the third octet here. So let me just flip this around a little bit so that I can show this clearly. So imagine this like that, and then imagine the second part over here. All right, so 3 bits have been used up in the third octet for the for the network. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then in the fourth octet, we have all of it is empty for us to use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so now if we count it out, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep, we have 13 bits. So now if we scroll back over to the left side here, the actual question is going to be 2 to the power of 13. And that will give us the number of total hosts. And if we look back at our TCP/IP cheat sheet, and if you go across the top here, so 2 to the power of 13 is 8192. 8,192. So that is the total number of hosts in each subnet. 8,192. Now, there's another formula, a variation of this, which tells us the number of usable hosts. And that is 2 to the power of n. 13, not 12. It's 2 to the power of n minus 2. Gives us the total number of usable hosts. All right, so that is 2 to the power of 13 minus 2 equals 8,190 usable hosts per subnet. So let me draw a line here so that we don't get confused. And let me draw a line here so that we don't get confused. And this is the number of total hosts. This is the number of total usable hosts. All right, so if we go back to our TCP/IP cheat sheet, so the yield here in the subnet mask, you would put in 8, and in the host, I like to put both numbers there. So I will put something like total 8192, and then I'll put a slash and I'll say usable 8190, something like that. All right, now we have to look at the CIDR incremental value. What is our subnet incremental value? Well, the way you figure that out, what is our subnet incremental value? The way that you figure that out is looking back up at the TCP/IP cheat sheet. All right, the way you look that up is going back to the TCP/IP cheat sheet. Count up which octet or which place your last digit fell in the threes column, right? So we borrowed 3 bits and the last bit is in the 3rd spot. So counting from the last octet, 1, 2, 3. So do you see how I did that? I pretend like this subnet mask bit pattern is aligned to the very last octet. I look at the ones and where the last ones fall. 1, 2, 3. 3 spots over. So I look up here, 1, 2, 3. We borrowed 3 bits, remember? And the 3rd place where that 1 would fall, if I try to imagine it overlaying it, imagine the ones overlaying over on top of this table. Then it's in the 32 spot. So that means my incremental value is 32. What does that mean? That means that basically after every 32 numbers, you will start a new subnet. After 32 variations, you will come to a complete cycle and start a new subnetwork. All right, so let's start actually doing the subnets. All right, so I'm going to type this part out because it would get way too much and I don't want to be sloppy and confusing to everyone. So our very first subnet is 172.16.0.0. Let's make this big so that everyone can see it. Way too big. Let's go with 30. All right, 172.16.0.0. Now let's go ahead and add 32 to that number. And remember, we're working in the 3rd octet. So I'm going to give a couple of lines here. 172.16. Remember, we can't change the 1st octet. We can't change the 2nd octet. We're only allowed to play around in the 3rd octet. And if you add 0 plus 32, you get 32. All right, then we're going to do that all over again. 172.16.32 plus 32 is what? 64.0. And we'll do one more on this side. 172.16 plus 32 is 96.0. All right, so I'm going to continue on the right-hand side for you guys, so that way I can keep all of our networks or all of our subnets on one screen, so that's easy to see. So 172 plus 16, so 96 plus 32 is 128.0. All right, then our next one will be 172.16.160.0. And then lastly, we have 172.16.192.0. And then last but not least, 172.16.224.0. Alrighty, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 subnets left, mapped out here. Now we got to fill in this. And the reason why I stopped at 8 is because we only created 8 new subnets, remember? All right, now usually the way that I do this is I write out the subnet ID because that's easy enough. I just keep adding 32 to each number. Then I like to put in the first and the last and the broadcast for each subnet. So I'm going to do this a little bit smaller so that way we can see what it's like, or it's easy to see it. All right, so 172.16.0.0 is the ID, is the IP address of the subnet itself. The first usable host that will be in here will be, let me go back here. The first usable host in here will be 172.16.0.1. And then I usually put LST for last usable host or something like that. Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. I'm trying to organize this out for you. All right. Nope. There we go. All right. 172. Actually, it's a little bit easier if you do the broadcast and then do the last. So I'll do BKST 172. Now the broadcast is going to be one less than the next subnet. Why? Because this the first subnet ends when the second one begins. The second one ends when the third one begins. The third ends when the fourth begins, and so on and so on. So what is one less than 172.16.32.0? Well, it will be 31.255. One less than this. Now, if you subtract something from 0, you go into the negatives, or you go into the network above it. So you borrow 1 from the third octet and then make this 255 and 1 less than that. So 31.255. Now to find the last usable, you just subtract 1 from the broadcast, which is 31.254. And if I just align this up, it'll look really nice, and then you'll be able to see how this plays out. All right, let's do this all over again now. Let me make that 20. All right, so my first usable will be 172.16.32.1, and my last, and then my broadcast, and my broadcast is 172.16.63.254. And my last is 1 less than that, 255.254. See, I almost made a mistake there. You gotta pay attention, you gotta stay focused. All right, so my first usable in my second octet is 172.16.32.1. My last usable in my second octet is 172.16.63.254, and my broadcast is 172.16.63.255. All right, continuing on. All right, I got some extra spaces here, so I'll just go ahead and backspace. All right. First usable is 172.16.64.1. My last, and now if you get good at it, you can kind of do it in your head and you don't have to keep going to the broadcast and last. 172.16, it'll be 95.254, and my broadcast will be 172.16.95.255. And again, I just did that because I'm used to it. If you're beginning, it might be easier to do the first, then the broadcast, then the last, just to keep things simple for you guys. All right, then let's do the fourth subnet. First is 172.16.96.1. My last is on the right hand side here. So I'll just minus 2 from that. 172.16.127.254. And my broadcast is 172.16.127.255. All right, now let's jump on over here to the right hand side, and I am working on the fifth subnet, 172.16.128.0.1. Oh, I forgot to put that there. This is my first usable address. My last usable address is 172.16.159.254. My broadcast is 172.16.159.255. All right, jumping on to the next subnet. My first usable will be 172.16.160.1. And I'm just going to copy and start copying and pasting now, guys. This is getting a lot of time. This is getting into be a lot of typing for me. Last 172.16.191.254. And my broadcast will be 172.16.191.255. All right, that's great. Almost at the end here, hang in there. All right, so my first usable in this subnet will be 172.16.192.1. My last usable will be 172.16.223.254, and my broadcast will be 172.16.223.255. Alrighty, and we are at our home stretch. Last but certainly not least, the .224 subnet. All right, my first usable will be 172.16.224.0.1. Sorry. My last will be 172.16. All right, my last usable will be 224.254, and my broadcast, my broadcast will be 172.16.224.255. All right, so that's it. We have mapped out our entire subnet here. Now on the TCP/IP cheat sheet, I give you spaces for 2. Now, one thing we forgot is to label them. So this is subnet 0. This is subnet 1. All right, then we have subnet 2. Then we have subnet 3. Then we have over here on the right hand side subnet 4. Then we have subnet 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, subnet 6, and then we have subnet 7. Alright, now we are done. So be sure to remember that you always start counting at 0. So subnet 0, subnet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Alrighty. So with that, I will go ahead and close out this example. We have all of our stuff answered, and we have filled out the new subnets, the yields, the new subnet mask, and mapped out our stuff. So that pretty much answers this. Alrighty guys, so that pretty much does it. Congratulations, we've mapped out all 8 subnets with the first, last, and broadcast addresses, and that pretty much answers our first subnetting example question. Alright, so I'll try to put more of these up so that way we can practice together. If you liked it, great, awesome. Put up a like or something, or subscribe, or something or other like that. If you didn't, please leave a comment below on how I can improve these videos, and then I will hopefully make them better. Alrighty, thank you guys, bye.